Al, when you now that you have your schools, one of the better known technology schools and stuff in here, how do you see technology playing a role in differentiating curriculum with inside your school?
There's a lot of tools at a teacher's disposal, but technology has opened up a world of resources that a teacher can tap into. Not only information that they can bring into the classroom, but using technology as a way to deliver content. Also, how students interact using technology to produce work. You know, ultimately it comes down to education's a two-way street. We're trying to lead students to a certain thing, but they have to produce. They have to produce work. If we're not having them do anything, we're failing the students. If all they are is a passenger on the bus as we go through 12, 13 years of school, we've failed. They've got to, part of our deal is teaching them how to bring about meaningful work that's presented in a way that shows that they've learned, but it's also going to lead other students towards student learning.
Okay. Kind of going along with that, one of the areas that you and I have had great debate, not great understanding between the two of us, is how our higher education is really got to change in the way it's preparing our teachers. Can you give me a little bit of backdrop on your thoughts about higher ed and what they need to do and be polite?
You know, one of the things, I do think higher ed is responding to what's going on in schools. You know, just like schools, you have tenured professors, tenured teachers who've been here 30 years. They have difficulty with where education is going because it's totally different from how they learn, how they started out in their education careers. So for them, all of education, not just preparation, but how we deliver content, all of this, what we're doing now is a huge change. But I do see universities, colleges responding to that. You see new people who've left whatever field they're in and now going in and moving into that upper education, bringing in new ideas, new ways of doing things. So, you know, we like to hammer on higher ed only because higher ed hammers on us. You're not preparing these students well enough. You're not sending us, you know, we're having to do too much remedial work with them. We're trying to respond to that. On the other hand, we're saying when you've got a student for 4 years and you're going to send them to us as new teachers, we have a bunch of skills that we're now saying are critical that a teacher knows, and we're not seeing that out of your programs. Now, we're seeing it out of some programs.
Would you say that a lot of the teachers that are coming out of higher ed nowadays really aren't coming out as critical thinkers? They're just kind of coming out as fill the square in on a test or something like that? Are you seeing any of that?
I'm seeing better teacher candidates come out now, I believe. I think that they are getting better prepared for today's classroom and not the classroom of 20 years ago. You still see some of that, and some of that, again, I could probably directly correlate back to long-term embedded professors who've refused to change. Same thing that we see with long-term embedded teachers who are dragging their heels and trying to hold back what it is that we're doing. Education has changed. So I think that most of the candidates that I see now are somewhere along that continuum of having maybe more critical thinking, understanding better what standards are, you know, but I think that our teachers, just like any other graduate, you've got 4 years, you can't prepare them in everything. Organizations have to educate, you know, it's on-the-job training. A lot of what goes on is going to be learned as you're doing the job, and that's just the way it is. You can't prepare them in 4 years for everything that they're going to now have to do. But I do think that there's been some response there. Some places doing it way better than others. But I'd have to say that probably in the last 5 years is where I'm seeing a change in teacher candidates that I'm interviewing.
Would you say a lot of that has anything to do with the fact that most of the teachers now coming out of the higher ed are more of a digital native, so some of their understanding of today's media, today's social, today's modern type of stuff has prepared them a little better for the classroom?
See, the students who are coming out now were instructed, I mean, we're looking at students who 8 years ago were in high school, and at that point we were already integrating technology into the classroom. You know, so technology has been with them their whole life. They've been using it even when they were in schools. They were being asked to produce using technology. So I think that they've helped to drive some of their university courses to become more digital in nature. And let's be honest, when they're having to present, they're able to present in a better way when they incorporate technology into presentations and stuff. Because they have the background in technology, they've kind of forced universities to incorporate that. There's a lot of people my age or older, but we realize that, we grew up with the technology. We're not digital natives, but we've had to stay ahead of the game because of the influence that the technology has had. So I think those new teacher candidates are coming out. They're able to use it. They're able to teach to it because they've been using it all their lives, and they go, wouldn't this be a better way of learning if you did this? And so they did that when they were in their university courses, and they're planning on doing that when they're out of their university and into the actual job.
So do you see a lot of these teachers then having more of a collaborative, these newer teachers doing more collaborative type of learning, more of a democratic approach where kids can have critical thinking skills and be able to throw them on this technology? And are you seeing more of that out of those type of teachers?
I'm seeing that out of the better candidates, which are the only ones I hire. We have I'm going to be honest with you. I think that I have a pretty good ability to hire quality people. And through some of our questioning techniques, some of the things that we do, we ask for that, give us samples of, when you're applying. We're able to make some choices about some teacher candidates that, they've got some of the critical thinking skills. They're, when they did their student teaching experiences, they were incorporating that. They had good teachers that they did their student teaching under who said, here's a better way of doing it. Have you thought about doing this? So I think that we're seeing some teachers who just understand that technology is just how it's been with them all their lives. They wouldn't know how to do it if all you did was give them a textbook and an appendices and said, here's your class, teach to it.
What would you feel when you're interviewing before you support a teacher you want to hire to your school board? What's the most important thing when you are looking at them? Character? Is it their grades? What is the first thing for you to hire a teacher that's mandatory?
Well, there isn't a first thing. It's the whole package. I think it's important that you look at the teacher's grades, because you want to know that you've got somebody who actually has knowledge that they're going to then be able to help deliver. Methods, what sort of methods are they using? When they talk about instructing to a lesson, what things do they say? I'm going to do this kind of a thing. I'm going to present the information in a different way. I'm going to have students creating, using digital media or some other presentation, small groups. We had a whole group that went through, of students who went through this school. Everything was, they took every classic, every assignment, turned it into a video that then went on to YouTube, and it's amazing how many hits they had to change an old classic into a different thing. You knew these kids, after they had done that, knew what that story was about or whatever the assignment was. So, you know, when it comes to interviewing teachers, I'm looking for that spark out of them. I'm looking for the teacher who's going to challenge how we're doing things or how they were taught and said, the way things have advanced, there's an even better way to now deliver this content. So, interviewing takes a lot of different nuances that you pick up on as far as who's going to be successful and who isn't.
Sounds to me like a lot of what you look for in your teachers is really what's their past experiences and how they're going to kind of deploy that into a constructed knowledge within inside their classroom, allowing students to, you know, share their experiences and then allowing them to kind of have discussion around that and discourse about what's right or what's wrong. Having worked with you, and that was the last question now, but having worked with you for over 2.5 years, I would have to say that your school district by far exceeds any of them in this area when it comes to a democratic approach towards curriculum development and also towards implementing technology for students' use, as well as PD, which we didn't get into, but we'll have another class to get into that one. So thank you very much for your time today, Al. I appreciate it, Mr. Sykes, and have a good day.